My name is Mark. I'm 44. I live on the edge of Portland, in a house I gutted and brought back to life one layer at a time. The floorboards, sanded by hand, late into winter nights with the heater running on borrowed power. The wiring, replaced circuit by circuit, because the old man who lived here before me believed electrical tape was good enough to patch anything. The roof, I tore it off in July with my palms bleeding from hot tar paper and nails that snapped rather than pulled clean. This house didn't want to be saved, but I did it anyway, because I was building a place for more than just myself. 5 years ago, I married Kelly, a second marriage for both of us. She came with 2 kids from her first, Dylan, 11, Maddie, 9. At the time, they were small enough to be curious. Polite. They said Mark, like it was a nickname they were trying out. And I took that as a beginning, because I was trying too. I brought them ice cream on Friday nights. I put up glow-in-the-dark stars in Maddie's room when she was scared of the dark. I showed Dylan how to use a stud finder the day he wanted to hang up his posters straight. Their father? A seasonal ghost. He showed up when it looked good, holidays, birthdays, the odd school play if his new girlfriend was in town and wanted to play family for a night. He gave what I'd call performative affection. Flashy gifts, big entrances, then silence. Meanwhile, I stayed. I was the one who heard the coughing at midnight. I was the one who fixed the hot water when it cut out during Maddie's bath. When Dylan's sneakers wore through and he tried to hide the holes with black marker, I noticed. Quietly took his size, bought new ones, and left them by the stairs. I kept a spreadsheet for expenses. Not because I was bitter, but because I wanted to track how much I was building. Not just financially, but structurally, like a man adding stories to a house, hoping it would grow into something permanent. School fairs? I showed up. Parent-teacher nights? I was there, taking notes while Kelly scrolled her phone. Doctor's visits? I left work early. Always. And the money? Don't get me started. Heating bills, orthodontics, streaming services, even the family passes to the zoo we visited exactly once. All came out of my pocket. Not begrudgingly. Not at first. Because I believed something old-fashioned. That if you showed up every day and did the work, eventually, they'd see you as their own. But love, it turns out, isn't built on sacrifice. Not in this house. It unraveled slow. Not all at once. A joke here. A missed thank you there. Until one morning, Christmas morning, it all came apart. We were at brunch. Kelly had made her famous cinnamon French toast, which I'd prepped the night before because she was too tired. The table was full syrup, bacon, orange juice in champagne flutes to make it feel special. Dylan was half watching his phone under the table. Maddie was poking at whipped cream. I had just set down the coffee pot. And Kelly, she raised her glass. To the one who makes it all happen, me, she said, beaming like a sitcom mom. There was a pause, then a laugh. Her own. Dylan stayed quiet. Maddie smirked into her cup. And then Kelly added, as if it were a footnote. Mark's not really a father. He's just a resource. She didn't even look at me. That word resource hit like a clean slap. Not a fight. Not a betrayal with teeth. Just a clinical dismissal. A reduction. Something about the way she said it, casual, effortless, made me realize it wasn't new. She'd thought that way for a long time. I didn't say anything. Didn't make a scene. I just pushed my plate an inch away and folded my napkin. Then I reached into my wallet, pulled out a 20, and set it on the table like I was leaving a tip at a diner. A habit, maybe, or muscle memory from when I used to wait tables back in my 20s. But mostly it was instinct because suddenly I didn't feel like I was eating with family. I felt like hired help. Later that day, after the wrapping paper had been bagged and the leftovers stored, I sat alone in the kitchen. I opened the drawer where we kept the family files. Medical records, school documents, emergency contacts. Quietly, carefully, I began to remove my name from every form. If I was just a resource, then I would act like one. Resources don't get calls at 3 a.m. when the fever spikes. Resources don't rush home when the car stalls. Resources don't carry grief or joy. They just function. I told myself it was a fluke, a bad joke, maybe too much wine. But then came the other cracks. Smaller. Meaner. Like Dylan telling his friends, "Yeah, my mom pays for everything. She's the boss." Or Maddie, after I spent hours fixing her laptop, chirping to her friend, "Our tech guy sorted it. Our tech guy. Not stepdad. Not even Mark. Just the guy." I used to laugh, shrug it off, tell myself kids go through phases, that teenagers push boundaries. But something shifted in me. I stopped laughing. I started watching, and I saw how often Kelly said nothing. Not when Dylan left me off the parents' invited list for his school project. Not when Maddie posted pictures with captions like, "Me and the fam." Just her and Kelly. And never once did she ask them to say thank you. Never once did she remind them I existed beyond the bills. That silence, her silence, it was the loudest thing in the house. It told them everything they needed to know. That I was optional, replaceable, useful but not necessary. Even the dog, a rescue I paid to rehabilitate, started sleeping in Dylan's room. I didn't want praise. I didn't need medals. But I wanted to matter. I wanted someone to look at the slow-draining hours I gave and say, "He's one of us." But I wasn't. I was an accessory. A walking debit card with a name they only used when the Wi-Fi went out. And when I looked at Kelly, really looked, I saw it in her face. That quiet comfort of someone who knew the man next to her wouldn't leave, no matter how invisible he felt. That's when I understood. They didn't see me as family. They saw me as a utility, a convenience. So I stopped pretending, stopped waiting for gratitude, stopped reminding Dylan to do his homework, stopped checking Maddie's grades online. I did what resources do. I functioned, until the day I didn't. It was a Tuesday, the kind of cold, gray day where the light never really arrives, just hangs dull over the kitchen tile like a body too heavy to lift. I'd worked a full shift, then came home to fix the pool pump in the garage. Not ours. The community pool across the street had a circulation issue, and the HOA called me before they called a professional. Because that's who I was, the fixer, the dependable one, the unpaid one. My hands were still wet with chlorinated water when Maddie walked in, dropped her backpack by the door like always, and tossed a folded slip of paper onto the counter. "What's this?" I asked, drying my palms. She shrugged, didn't even take out her earbuds. "Parent-teacher night. Tomorrow. Do I need to be there?" She looked up at me, barely. "Why do you care? You don't make the decisions anyway." Then she walked off. No thanks. No explanation. Just that flick of the head girls her age have perfected. A blend of dismissal and boredom sharpened to a blade. That sentence stuck. Not for what it said, but for how true it felt. I don't make the decisions. They weren't her words, not really. They were borrowed from the silence Kelly had wrapped around every moment I tried to assert myself. Every time I asked for backup on discipline. Every time I set a rule and Kelly quietly overturned it behind closed doors. Maddie had simply absorbed what she'd been shown. That I wasn't a parent, just a placeholder. That night, I was in the garage again, fixing the Bluetooth speaker Kelly broke 2 months ago and left on the workbench like it might fix itself. Dylan was on the phone, not knowing I was on the other side of the thin door. "Yeah, it's great," he said, laughing. "We've got a sponsor in the house. He doesn't care. He just pays." That word again. Sponsor. Not stepfather. Not even man. A wallet with legs. I turned off the music. Sat in the dark. Just the hum of the overhead light and the pulse in my throat. I stared at my hands, still stained from fixing their world. And I realized I was no longer part of it. It didn't come with yelling. No rage. No screaming match. Just a calm decision rising up from the bottom of me like a stone pushed upward by pressure. The next morning I called a meeting. Living room. 7:30 sharp. No phones. No distractions. Kelly sat on the edge of the couch like it wasn't her house anymore. Maddie curled into the armrest, hoodie up like a shield. Dylan leaned against the wall, arms crossed, already annoyed. I didn't shout, didn't accuse, didn't cry. I told them what I had decided. What they had decided, really, I was just acknowledging it. "If I'm not family," I said, looking at all three of them, Then I shouldn't be carrying the weight of one. Kelly blinked. Mark. No, I said. This isn't up for debate. If I'm a resource, a sponsor, then I'm revoking the subscription. Dylan laughed. A dry, sarcastic huff through his nose. Maddie turned red. This is about that teacher thing? This is about everything, I said, still calm. Every little dismissal. Every, you don't matter. That wasn't said in words but screamed through silence. I stood, walked to their rooms, opened drawers, pulled out luggage. You're serious? Kelly said, standing up now. Mark, stop. But she didn't stop me. She didn't even touch the suitcase in my hand. Dylan stepped forward. You can't just kick us out. You're right, I said. I can't. But your real dad can take you in. You say he's the one who matters. Let's test that. Maddie's voice cracked. Dad doesn't have space. He has rights, though. That's what you said. Remember? I didn't shout. My voice was soft, but it cut. I have no rights. You made that clear. So now neither do you, not here. 3 days later, I dropped them off. Their father, Todd, lived above a hardware store in a one-bedroom apartment that still smelled like whatever the last tenant cooked. He opened the door in a shirt that looked slept in, stained at the collar. He didn't ask why they were there. He just looked at me like I was dropping off a package that didn't belong to him. I brought their stuff, I said. They're yours now. Dylan stood beside his box of clothes, trying to look unfazed. Maddie had tears in her eyes, but refused to let them fall. Todd scratched his head. Wait, what? You've got kids, I said. Time to act like it. He looked at Kelly, who had followed behind in her car. She said nothing, just stared at the ground like she might find an excuse hidden in the gravel. I can't take both, Todd muttered. I don't. Then split them up, I said. Do what you've always done. The bare minimum. The moment froze there. A quiet, humiliating standoff on a cracked sidewalk while his neighbors watched from their windows. Maddie clutched her phone. Dylan turned away, and I left. No speeches. No goodbye. On the drive back, the silence in my truck felt cleaner than the house ever did. When I got home, I walked straight into the garage and took down the family calendar from the wall. I erased every appointment, every reminder, every note about parent nights and sports practices. Then I tossed the marker in the trash. No more sponsor. No more resource. I was just a man now, and for the first time in 5 years, that was enough. Kelly moved in with her mother 2 days later. Said she needed space. She left behind her coffee mug, pair of shoes by the door, and the silence she had helped build between us. Brick by brick. I didn't chase her, didn't beg, didn't ask when she'd be back. I just stood in the hallway, staring at the space where the family photo used to hang. The one with all 4 of us in matching sweaters Kelly ordered just for the shoot. The photo I paid for. The frame I hung. The smiles I thought were real. I took it down, slid it into a drawer, and shut it quietly. No drama. No closure. Just a door, closed. And in that silence, a new clarity began to grow. The house was too quiet. No thuds from Dylan's music upstairs. No footsteps racing through the hall. No arguments over screen time or who finished the orange juice. The silence settled in fast, like dust. Like something had died and everyone was too polite to say it out loud. Kelly moved in with her mother. Said it was temporary. She left without packing much. No suitcases, just a laundry basket and her favorite coat. Like someone stepping out for groceries, unsure if they'd return. She didn't ask me to stop her, and I didn't. The first few days, I waited for the noise to come back. Instinct, I guess. You don't spend 5 years bracing against chaos without twitching when it disappears. I walked through the house and found all the ghosts. A sock under the couch. Maddie's hairbrush still sitting by the mirror. Dylan's old school project. A popsicle stick bridge, cracked in half and shoved behind the bookshelf. I didn't move any of it. Let it rot. Let the house remember who used to live here and how little they valued it. The fridge was suddenly too full. Leftovers spoiled. No one to eat them. The couch didn't sag anymore. The living room stayed spotless. I should have felt peace. But what I felt was weight. Not from what was there, but from everything that had left without saying goodbye. When you live with people long enough, even their noise becomes a kind of company. Now it was just me. And the bills they left behind. First came the message from Kelly. Short, cold, like she was writing to her landlord. Maddie had a fall at practice. Hairline fracture. They wouldn't treat her until we could reach her father. I guess you're off the paperwork now. No greeting. No punctuation. Just the sharp reminder that I had stepped off the grid. And now the net was gone. Then Dylan texted. Can you just send the router password? The one you changed. I left him on read. An hour later. Okay, I get it. You're mad. No, not mad. Just finished. Then Maddie. I'm sorry I said that. I didn't mean it. But she did. She meant all of it. They had been raised to believe love was a utility. Something dispensed, measured, vended. And now that the machine had broken, they didn't know where to go. A few days passed. Then the real collapse began. The hospital called Kelly. She called me. Maddie's insurance bounced, she said. I was eating dinner. Alone. I didn't pause my fork. Not my problem. Her voice cracked. She's still a child, Mark. Then let her real father handle it. She went quiet, then hung up. I looked down at the plate. Spaghetti. No salt. I hadn't bothered. It was the first time in 5 years I didn't care whether someone else liked what I made. The next morning, the school called. Not for me, for Kelly. I heard her on speakerphone in the driveway, pacing beside her car. Something about emergency contacts. Medical records out of date. Forms unsigned. I watched through the window. She looked like a kid being scolded by the principal. Later that evening, she came by. Didn't knock. Just used her old key. Same coat. Same basket of tension. I was in the garage, fixing nothing in particular. Just tightening bolts to keep my hands busy. She leaned in the doorway. Arms crossed. Not angry, just tired. We need to talk, she said. I kept working. About. You know what? I set the wrench down. Turned to her. Do I? She sighed. This can't keep going. You made your point. No, I said. I don't think I have. She stepped inside, careful like the floor might collapse. Mark, the kids miss you. I laughed once. Sharp. Ugly. They miss the credit card. The ride to school. The safety net. Not me. She didn't deny it. They're sorry. No, Kelly, I said louder now. They're scared. They've never had to need their real father before. Now they do. And guess what? He's not picking up. She sat on the old wooden stool. The one I built for Dylan when he wanted to help me in the garage. A phase that lasted 3 weeks. Her voice dropped. He won't take them. I tried. He says it's not his responsibility. I nodded. He's right. She looked up, startled. What? It's not his responsibility. It never was. You made it mine. You expected me to fill his shoes, without ever giving me the authority that came with them. She blinked. Once, twice, then looked away. I kept going. Not angry, just precise. You asked me to be their father, but never let me be one. They mocked me. You excused it. They dismissed me. You translated. Every boundary I set, you blurred. Every decision I made, you reversed in whispers. That's not fair. It's exactly fair. We sat in that garage, surrounded by 5 years of abandoned projects. Trophies no one dusted. Shelves no one thanked me for building. The legacy of a man trying to earn something he was never going to be given. They miss you, she said again. I looked at her. Not with hate. Not with longing. Just with honesty. I don't miss them. Silence. She stood. So that's it. I shrugged. No. But that's where we start. She left without slamming the door. The next day, Maddie showed up. Alone. No drama. Just a hoodie and a cast on her arm. I opened the door. She didn't speak at first. I shouldn't have said what I said, she muttered. I didn't mean it like that. I nodded. Okay. She looked at me surprised. That's it? I heard you, I said. But I'm not coming back to what I was. She looked down. Do you hate me? No. I just don't trust you. She stayed for an hour. We didn't talk much. She looked around the house like it was a museum of a life she didn't understand. At some point, she asked if she could sit in the kitchen. I let her. Later, Dylan came. No posturing. Just awkward energy. He sat across from me, stared at his hands, said nothing. Then finally, I was stupid. I nodded again. Okay. I mean it. I know. They didn't cry. I didn't either. We just sat in the ruins of what we used to pretend was a family. That night, Kelly came by again. She asked if we could all talk. Together. I agreed. Not for her. Not for them. For myself. To hear it. All of it. We sat at the kitchen table. Same table where we'd once carved pumpkins. I let them talk. Kelly apologized. The kids fumbled through half-hearted confessions. There were no tears. Just exhaustion. I told them everything. Every resentment. Every humiliation. Every time they made me feel like a stranger in my own house. I didn't raise my voice. They listened. For the first time, they listened. And when it was done, I told them what would change. No more invisible duties. No more unquestioned payments. No more blank checks for people who didn't know my middle name. They agreed. Not because they understood, but because they were out of options. Forgiven? Maybe. But not forgotten. The bridge didn't collapse. But it didn't look the same when we started walking across it again. After that final conversation, after the apologies had been spoken, too late, too polished, the air didn't shift back to what it was. Because what it was had never been real. It had been held together by unspoken terms, unpaid debts, and the fragile hope that love could be purchased one repair, one ride, one school bill at a time. The house was louder now, but not in the way it used to be. They walked softer. They paused at doorways. They looked me in the eye a little longer before speaking, as if trying to remember how to talk to a man they had once called just the tech guy, the driver, the resource. Maddie started saying thank you, not every time, but enough for me to notice. She'd leave her plate in the sink instead of vanishing into her room. Baby steps. Dylan was more awkward about it. He tried to fill silences with help, offering to lift things, take the trash out without being asked. He once brought me a beer from the fridge without a word, set it down next to me like a peace offering, then walked away. I let it sit there for an hour. Then I drank it. Kelly. She didn't ask to move back in right away. She came by more often, brought groceries sometimes, tried to initiate small talk. But there was distance between us now, the kind you can't name but feel in your bones. She looked at me like a stranger she used to know. We had dinner once, just the two of us. The kids were out. The house felt hollow again, like it was waiting for something to break. She made salmon. I ate it in silence. Halfway through, she said, I don't know if I can fix this. I didn't answer, because the truth was, I didn't know either. We were past the phase of promises, past the clean slate fantasies. Some cracks don't get patched. Some rot goes all the way through. I didn't hate her, but I didn't trust her. I slept better without her next to me. Not because I was at peace, but because I no longer feared being used in my sleep. Eventually, she asked if she could come home. I said yes, with conditions. There were new rules now, written down, agreed upon, boundaries like fences around a yard that had been trampled too many times. The accounts, split. The expenses, documented. My role, defined in writing. I was done being the silent donor. And the kids knew it too. The day the car insurance came due, Dylan asked who was paying. I said, not me. He nodded, didn't argue. 2 weeks later, he took a part-time job at a hardware store. Maybe it was pride. Maybe necessity. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. And that truth tasted better than any dinner I'd had in 5 years. Maddie needed a school laptop replaced. She asked, not demanded. Said she'd understand if the answer was no. That alone was worth more than her old thankless requests. I bought her the laptop, made her sign a receipt. We were a family now in the way a burned house is still a house. The structure remains, but the rooms are cold and the paint is gone. It's functional, not warm. They don't call me Dad. They never will. I stopped waiting for that word like it was going to save me. A mark. I fix things. And I keep the receipts. The hardest part? Learning that love offered without respect is just slavery. It feels noble when you're in it. All those late nights, those surprise birthday cakes, the dentist visits, the quiet endurance. But over time, it erodes you, turns you into something hollow. Now, I measure what I give, not out of bitterness, but because I've learned the price of being generous in a house that doesn't see you. Respect is no longer a request. It's a requirement. My presence is not default. It is earned, as much as I once tried to earn theirs. I keep copies of everything now. The medical forms, the school letters, the bank transactions. If it's not in writing, it's not real. Kelly doesn't like it, says it feels cold. But I remind her, warmth doesn't come from words. It comes from action, from defense, from stepping in when someone's being erased. She didn't do that for me. She let me vanish quietly. So now I speak clearly. And I don't vanish. They live in my house on my terms. Not with cruelty, but with clarity. There's a line drawn now. Cannot be crossed without consequence. And I see it in their eyes, they believe me. Maybe that's the closest thing to respect I'll ever get. So here's the truth, and I won't sugarcoat it. I loved them, fully, quietly, stupidly. And for a while, I let that love become a leash. I thought sacrifice would earn me a seat at the table. Instead, it earned me a bill I never agreed to pay. Now I pay only what I owe, and no one adds to the tab without asking. So I'll ask you, whoever you are, was I wrong? Was I cruel for finally demanding the respect I'd never been given? Should I have kept paying the price for a title no one let me claim? Or did I do what any grown man must do when he's tired of being the background in someone else's life? You tell me, because me, I've already made peace with the silence. And it finally sounds like mine.